Well, the other side of the coin now. What was the biggest mistake that the North made during the entire war?
God.
That's a pretty interesting one.
Do I go for the joke answer?
Go for it. I want it.
Don't let me free the slaves.
Whoa, Jesus.
I'm not saying that's like my argument. I'm just saying, like,
You know what? I would go for not giving Dan Sickles full command of the Army of the Potomac.
Okay. I was gonna go with giving McClellan field command.
oh man, you took mine. Well, I'd go with I suppose I have to think on that one actually. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
take your time.
That's all right. Don't worry.
I think the audience is at this point watching. It's like whatever Woody says, that's the actual answer to the question.
I suppose I guess I'll just have to go with not putting Grant in a higher command earlier in the war. I guess. I don't know exactly. It's not my best argument, but that's the one I'll have to go with.
You know what? Here, Pete, you go first in case Woody comes up with something a little better.
Yeah. I just
Okay. All right. So giving McClellan actual field command is the biggest mistake that the North make. The guy was good off a battlefield, good drilling the army, getting it into shape, but like he just did not have the mentality that was needed. Like in the same way that I was saying before, that the South needed to stall, they needed to prolong. The Union needed a quick victory. They needed someone who was going to be able to move fast and be aggressive, and McClellan was just not that guy. In the Peninsula campaign, in the Maryland campaign, he's passive. He doesn't actually like seize the initiative. He doesn't actually move aggressively, which is what he needs to do. And Teton, which we talked about before, is like a perfect example of that, where you know he's got like 3 cigars rolled with like Charles Lee's battle plans. So he knows what the enemy's going to do. He knows that Lee's forces are split. And so he knows that he could potentially defeat Lee in detail if he actually acted on this intelligence. But it takes him 18 hours before doing it. And then the opportunity's gone, the opportunity's lost. And I know that Antietam, yeah, it is a like a sort of a minor victory in the end, of politically an important victory, but it could have been a much more impactful victory. It could have been the end of Lee's army there and then if McClellan had the initiative to act on the intelligence.
I got another one now. Now that you can just edit out, I suppose, the stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, don't worry.
The Trent affair in the Civil War.
All
So,
right. You want to go?
sure, I'll go. So on November 8th, 1861, the USS San Jacinto, which is a steam screw frigate in the Union Navy, intercepts a Royal Navy mail or a Royal Mail Packet steamer, the RMS Trent, which is carrying 2 Confederate diplomats on their way to England to represent the Confederacy and try to gain recognition from England. So the USS San Jacinto intercepts a ship, boards it, and forcibly removes the 2 Confederate diplomats and then takes them prisoner back to the United States in the North. This causes outrage in England because they boarded an English ship and literally took off 2 diplomats going to England. So the prime minister actually even was like outraged by this and was saying, "Oh, we need war for this insult to our national honor and all that stuff." So it's one of the biggest mistakes of the war, in my opinion, for the Union, because they basically almost went to war with another country in the midst of fighting a civil war.
It's a really good one. I was not aware of. There's another instance where England went to war for a really petty reason. What is it? Someone's ear?
Another? You mean all of the time?
All of it. Tegan, go for it.
Sometimes during war, you need to take a risk. Sometimes you need to go balls to the wall and just say, to hell with it. Daniel Sickles was that man. Grant was the man who could fight. Sherman brought the war to himself. Daniel Sickles would have walked in front of his troops and slapped Robert E. Lee in the face during parley just to assert dominance, because that's the kind of man he was. He was a madman, but he wasn't stupid. During the Battle of Chancellorsville, the Confederates' greatest victory, how did they solidify it? They put up an artillery park and decimated the Union line against Joseph Hooker. Who foresaw that? Daniel Sickles. Gettysburg, the turning point of the war to so many. They were going around ready to strike Little Round Top and roll up the flank. Who stopped them? Daniel Sickles. Who killed the relative of the man who wrote the Star Spangled Banner? Daniel Sickles. That has nothing to do with this. I just love bringing it up. The man could fight, the man could recruit, and the man could energize. That's what you need in a warrior. So many generals failed Lincoln. He traded them like Pokemon cards. Well, this is his foil Charizard. This is his foil Charizard.
Good. Oh my god, that ending.
I love the passion.
Okay, Pete.
Okay, we'll start with the Trent affair. The problem is that, like, they almost went to war, but they didn't. So at the end of the day, like, it's barely a mistake, because if you played it out 100 other times, yeah, you almost go to war, but you don't. So I'm not even really sure if I'm counting that as a serious mistake. It was almost a mistake, but fortunately it wasn't. And as for Tegan's argument, like, Sickles sounds really cool, don't get me wrong, but the flaw in the argument, though, is that the Union won. Like, Grant and Sherman were good enough. They did get the job done. Like, what? Like, it's like, what's the mistake? It was like not putting Sickles in command, but at the end of the day, things worked out fine for the Union. Like, it wasn't a mistake. Like, if Grant and Sherman had lost, then you would have an argument that it was a mistake and that Sickles should have been command. But at the end of the day, they were successful. So it's not really a mistake. McClellan is a genuine error.
Love how the British guy's like, yeah, it's no big deal that my country almost went to war with the northern half of yours. Like, okay,
it happens.
It does happen.
Can you all excuse me for a second? I have to go to the bathroom and rethink my life.
Wow.
Oh, so we're all back.
Yeah.
I've completely lost who goes next. I think is
I'll
it
go.
Woody's rebuttal?
Oh,
Unless Tegan wants to go.
no, you can go first. I'm
Okay.
getting ready to bring
He's
all the
already-
energy back again.
He's already Leroy Jenkson. He's going like full in.
So when it comes to Dan Sickles, I guess all I can say is, like, I mean, having Dan Sickles in command of the Army of the Potomac by the time of Gettysburg, I mean, yeah, he's very balls to the wall, I suppose, but is that what you want in a general sometimes when you're trying to win a critical campaign? You don't want like someone going all out and reckless, like such as Lee did at Gettysburg with Pickett's charge, and it cost him a whole division of his army practically. When it comes to Pete's argument, McClellan, yes, he was a terrible field commander, but when it came to administrative role, McClellan was actually a pretty great general. The army that he trained in the summer and fall of 1861 became the Army of the Potomac. That was his army. Even in the later campaigns of the Civil War, he made the Army of the Potomac, and they were his troops.
All right, Tegan.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was not the entire hype around Grant that he kept on moving forward? Was that not the strategy that won the war? And yeah, McClellan sucked. Unfortunately, the people around him sucked more. John Pope got the army destroyed before. That's what happens when you replace McClellan. And who did they replace McClellan with? You had Burnside, who threw his army up at Fredericksburg. And who was going to come after him? Joseph Hooker. I mean, sure, if you had your all-star Army of the Potomac with the perfect commanders, yeah, that would be better than him. But life didn't work out that way. And yeah, the Trent affair could have went poorly, but also what were we supposed to do? Just let that happen? We couldn't just allow Confederate diplomats going along. We had laws in place. And when we did let them out, everything turned out fine. Britain was still willing to sell us arms. It was a close call, but it was a close call. Nothing really big came of it. That's why I poorly covered it in my week-by-week series, because it wasn't worth it.
Oh, a plug-in. All right.
No, I fucked that up. Yeah, no, straight up. If you look at my Trent Affair episodes, even the pronunciations are
The
bad.
funny thing about the Trent affair too is like afterwards the British were like the British diplomat or politicians were like, wait, we made all this fuss over these guys.
They were the most useless diplomats of all time, and that does
Yeah.
go by today's diplomats.
All they did was like secure a loan from some French company, which I'm sure the French company sure did regret after that.
All right.